Hey there, sports gamers. Welcome back into the channel. I'm Brandon Satterwhite, and we have a special video for you today. I got a chance to sit down with two of the game directors for MLB The Show 25 to talk about all of the changes coming to Diamond Dynasty and Road to the Show in this year's game. Hope you guys enjoy it. Check it out. Would you mind just giving a brief overview of what your role is within the MLB The Show team?
Yeah, I can kick it off. Steve and I are co-game directors on the title, and so typically we oversee the player experience, right? All of the kind of new features and experiences players are going to have across the game. And then this cycle, I was more so focused on the online side of things, experiences like Diamond Dynasty.
And likewise, I was on franchise and Road to the Show, so the offline experiences.
Okay. So this was a big year for the series as it was the first year MLB The Show was only available on the current generation of consoles. Do you feel like moving on from this older hardware opened up new development opportunities for the series?
Go for
So
it,
for
Steve.
25, so for 25, we saw a lot of features go in. So this year again, massive jumps in Road to Show. Diamond Dynasty got a lot of work, two new modes there of play, the removal of sets and seasons and everything else going in there. And franchise has a compelling free agent off season experience. So there's a lot that went in for this year for sure.
And it's very clear that a lot of those changes came from fan feedback. I mean, the deep dive series was called Fielding Feedback. So, what is your process for fielding feedback from your community and prioritizing the suggestions that they give you?
Yeah, we have a lot of different ways we gather feedback. So there's a bunch of stuff that we typically classify as user research. So you've probably seen some of our surveys that get posted out to the community. We do interviews with players. We also do traditional research before the game comes out and while the game's live. So that's like one bucket of stuff. We have a community team here that's always surfacing the latest kind of feedback from players from, places like Sports Gamers Online or Op Sports, but also Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all of the sources. And so we're always ingesting player feedback, and it's very, very important to us, right? Like, as you pointed out, a bunch of the features in 25 directly tie back to player feedback, like the removal of sets and seasons is just a singular example. And so for us, player feedback is very, very important to us. At the end of the day, we're trying to build and ship a game that you guys love to play, right? And so player
Yeah.
feedback and sentiment lets us know how successful we are in achieving that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and two of your most popular modes, Road to the Show and Diamond Dynasty, like we said, did get a lot of major additions this year. What do you think it is about those two modes that make them so popular to players?
I'll start with Road to Show for sure. It has an easy level of access for most players. There's an aspirational thing to it. I get to become a baseball player. I get to take this journey. I create my own narrative along with the supporting narrative found in the game. I'm able to make decisions. My performance makes an impact, and it's that sports RPG. So again, it's easier for people to kind of get into that mode and find their way through. And again, if they're big fans, they create the person that they adore, or they or themselves, or somebody tied to them. It gives them a lot of options to kind of get in there. And again, there's just them taking their own journey, which makes it easier on the user a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think both of the modes support really core sports fantasies, right? Every kid, if you're a fan of baseball and you're a kid growing up, you dream and see yourself playing for your favorite team in the majors. That's very central to Road to the Show. And Diamond Dynasty has more of that fantasy building, right? You get to answer all of these like crazy what if questions, like, hey, what if Ted Williams and Babe Ruth played together, right? That DD
Mhm.
allows you to kind of see what that feels like.
And so, diving into Road to the Show a little bit, that mode in particular had two headlining features added this year: the amateur years experience and then the new progression system. With the amateur experience, you're able to choose from 8 different universities to play your college career at. What was the process like reaching out to those schools and actually getting them put into the game?
So it started with the team discussing which schools are we going to go talk to or even try to approach. So, it's taking in historical college programs and their impact on baseball as a program in college, and then who's been who's had some nice come up years, as well as who's more recently impacting the world of college baseball. And in the last couple of drafts we've seen, like college baseball is really taking a step forward. You're finding out these stars and who's their programs. And so the team came together, decided on that 8 that would be a solid selection of historical to current to perennials. And then we reached out to the collegiate licensing company and worked with them, and they were great partners for us. And they contacted the schools, and with them we worked to secure their rights for the game. And good news, we got every one of them that we wanted. So we got every one of those first choices.
That's awesome. Do you think there's a chance of more schools possibly being added in future years?
I mean, we're always going to discuss the future of our features that we do. They're never just one and done. So we want to see how community feedback is. Is there a hunger for it? Is there anything? But yeah, will definitely be a discussion point for us going forward.
And then when we saw the feature premiere, we saw that when you were looking at the different schools, they each had different effects on your player, like exposure, skill development, and such. Can you talk a little bit about how choosing each school will affect your Road to the Show playthrough?
Oh yeah. So as you mentioned it, the skill development and the exposure will affect part of your journey. Um, so when you choose to go to college, you'll have the different programs looking for you. And based on the type of program, they'll have an impact on your development. So how many tokens you get to spend in your attributes as well. They also offer, depending on the scale of the program, from 3 to 5 star, they'll offer you an equipment package, which is a nice little get you started type piece of equipment. And that ranges from common to gold. Based on, then again, the strength of the program that you're choosing. Each program also offers its own set of perks that you get to choose from, which again automatically changes the makeup of your player in that space, getting you that early perk to start crafting as you go into the game, as well as the draft exposure, or the exposure itself. Is what maintains your level of interest from MLB teams. So higher the draft exposure, the more you'll stay in the top with them, and then maybe get a little bit of a grace when you don't perform as well because you are in a big program. Whereas others, your exposure is maybe a little bit lower, but you trade out for the tokens that you can do for your progression as well. So depending on that, it's kind of getting you that starting place of what your player starts forming up to look like in those early decisions.
Yeah, and that new progression system is probably what I'm most excited for in the mode. You can now use those tokens to manually increase your attributes. What went into creating that system, and how do you feel it's an improvement over the previous one?
We wanted total control, which is something we've been lacking in the last few years, is that absolute control from the player themselves. And so allowing that back into the hands, they can take the tokens and they can put them wherever they want to. It's their player. Why shouldn't you have that? And then allowing more avenues to craft uniqueness within your player, again with the perk system, allowing you to choose when is the time for you to adjust that perk to be exactly the way you want to have it in that space. We also wanted to make sure that players coming in at different levels could have the ability to feel like they're making that impact themselves. So we offer presets for token allocation. So, if you're choosing your type of player, you have a drop down, your position player, you have a drop down on a preset of tokens that focus on certain attributes that can get you just started. You can edit it if you like, and also in that case, we put attributes inside of tools like 5-tool players, again, if you're familiar with that term. And then for that user, they can just spend on the tool itself, or if you're more graduate or you feel more like you want to really further tinker with your player, you can dig into the power tool and then do power versus lefty if you just want to be a lefty specialist, or however you want to approach it. So again, it was about putting the control back to the user's hands and the player's hands and letting them be able to select and fine tune and create the character they want to create.
And so moving on to Diamond Dynasty, it also has two big headlining additions, the two new modes, Diamond Quest and Weekend Challenge. With Diamond Quest, where did the idea come from to put a roguelike board game mode in a baseball game?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I'll tell you how that went. We wanted to create something different that was our own. What's a mode that's specifically to us? in a sports gaming experience. And we wanted to provide some kind of repeatable and dynamic experience that goes in and offering some risk reward and still leveraging familiar gameplay experiences that we have and put it into that, again, that dynamic replayable piece. And so we were inspired by board games, obviously, party games, dungeon crawl, and then roguelike in order to have that way of having that persistent effect that happens when you replay over and over. And so again, we were looking for something that is a mode that can offer that unique, different way of playing inside a Diamond Dynasty, chasing with a lot of a high risk reward, and something that we could grow over time. And again, this mode is capable of being adjusted and tinkered with and grow to a different experiences as we get longer with it.
Do you feel like the fantasy experience that Diamond Dynasty offers gives you as developers more creative freedom to combine different game design elements that you wouldn't normally be able to in other modes?
Yeah, it definitely does. And you can see this, right? It's not just Diamond Quest and MLB 25. If we go back almost a decade ago, we had Conquest, right? So, you know, there's always different ways because the mode's so fantasy oriented. We have a lot of leeway. We're not constrained to just supporting exactly what happens in real life or having realism be the primary driver. Ultimately, it's important to find different experiences and new ways for players to build their teams, use their teams in new and exciting ways. So we're always looking to push the needle in DD.
And speaking of Weekend Challenge, that's something that I know fans have been asking for years. How long have the team been working on that sort of a mode, and what made it finally come together for MLB The Show 25?
Yeah, we've talked about different ways to shake up the ranked seasons experience for a while, as you've pointed out. For this year, it just felt it was important for us to actually shake up the ranked experience, right? Especially over the last couple of years with the sets and seasons model, we wanted to make sure that that like principal PvP experience was new and exciting. And so for a lot of the players in ranked seasons, we have really skilled players, we have players that kind of just dabble in that experience. And so with Weekend Classic, we wanted to provide a system that creates a bunch of extra incentives for the most dedicated, most ardent, skilled players, but also it's the reason why we qualify and everyone can participate in Weekend Classic. It's also just a fun event for the entire community to engage in, and it doesn't matter if you've never even played an online game head to head, you can still hop in, get extra rewards.
And Diamond Dynasty's motto for years has been grind 99, meaning players can get that 99 overall team just by playing the game. You don't have to, spend extra money or anything. How does the Diamond Dynasty team try and make sure you're sticking to that model when you're making, these big, massive changes to the mode?
Yeah, we really care about accessibility in Diamond Dynasty, right? It's important that players can build the team of their dreams. And obviously, the principal way to do that is just through playing the game, right? Playing ranked seasons, playing Diamond Quest, playing mini seasons, and so on. And so when we think about balancing the mode, we always think about placing different rewards depending on where the OVR curve is at that point in time. We want to make sure that there's good players at that overall that we're at that point in time across a bunch of different positions too, right? Like you have to assemble an entire Diamond Dynasty team. So you need a good shortstop, you need a good first baseman, you need a good rotation. And so we always think about scattering those rewards across a bunch of different vectors. That's position based, it's based on the OVR curve, and then we also do our best to try and split it between offline and online as well, right? Not everyone's an online player, not everyone's an offline player. So we want to make sure that you can build a really competitive team irrespective of what you enjoy as a player.
So to sort of wrap things up, say in 10 years or so from now, when fans of the series are looking back on their favorite games in the series, what do you hope that they say and remember most about MLB The Show 25?
Ooh, that's a great one.
Mhm.
at least on the DD side of things, I think the hopefully the big takeaway for Diamond Dynasty is that we had a really big expansion, obviously with the 2 new modes, but also the removal of sets and seasons. And people will look back and see this as like the beginning of a new direction for Diamond Dynasty.
Yeah, I'll say likewise on the other side with the offline and career modes, like they'll see that the impact that was made to Road to Show was direct to answer to the requests of the community, right? The asks, and including the entirety of the game. Like they can point back to like, oh yeah, this is definitive proof that they do listen to us, that they do take our feedback into account when they look to do things.
Well, Lance, Steve, thank you guys so much for taking the time on launch day of all days to talk to me. This was an incredible experience for me. I've been a fan of the series for a long time, so thank y'all so much for doing this, and good luck on the launch tonight.
Our pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Well, that's going to do it for this video, y'all. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, big shout out to Steve and Lance for taking the time on launch day to sit down and talk to us. Make sure y'all go down in the comments and show them some love and thank them for coming out and talking to us. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our future videos, including our upcoming review of MLB The Show 25. And if you like our baseball content and want more of it, make sure to check out our baseball channel, SGO Dugout. And for all your sports gaming news and updates, stay tuned to Sports Gamers Online. I'm Brandon Satterwhite with SGO. Thank you for watching.